And as you know, this is the time of day when we are pleased to listen to our constituents. This is Matters by the Public. I have 11 cards in front of me, and if you have not submitted your card, we will certainly be pleased to accept it. And I'm going to ask my colleague to my left, Commissioner Kerner, to do the honors of calling up. We're going to use both microphones to be efficient, so please, he'll give you a direction of where to go.
Thank you, Mayor, and we're delighted to be here to hear comments from members of the public. We'll start with Mr. David Goodlett. To the microphone to your right, sir, and then Stephen Basor, I believe, to the microphone to the left. Basor.
So, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners,
Let's get your microphone on. Hold on a second. Okay, you got 3 minutes, and we got another card.
yes, sir, we're aware of the 3 minutes, and what I'd like to do is clean up at the end. Could we ask Mr. Basor and Mr. Hunley to go first? We'll be within our time frame. Let me just come back when they finish.
That will
With
be
your
fine.
indulgence?
We are certainly willing to reorder.
Mr. Basor, and then Mr. Huntley.
Hello. So I'm speaking here on behalf of TKM Bengard Farms. That's my family's agribusiness. We're fourth-generation lettuce farmers, and we work out in the glades. And we basically depend on the roads from our fields to our pre-cooler packing house all day long, 7 days a week. We're in our production season, which goes pretty much from December till now, and we're constantly moving produce up and down, back and forth, and over time the roads definitely see some wear and tear, and they're seeing them right now. And just wanted to, bring this to your attention. We definitely need some help. We need some assistance. It has an impact on the quality of our produce. I think that some pictures have been distributed that doesn't really show too well in there, but we'll have a lot of our packaging break down as it's in transit just from the field to our facility, and there's a bit of a cost for that. So we have to dispose of quite a bit of product just in local transit, and a lot of bit of labor to kind of rebuild and repalletize our loads of produce. Other thing to mention too is just from a safety perspective, some of these roads, it does feel a bit like you're riding up and down on a roller coaster. I drive a Tahoe, and when you got 4 or 5 people in the Tahoe, you feel the bumps a little bit more than if you're in a sedan, and those roads will throw you. And I can just imagine what it is to be one of the large produce trucks, going up and down these 2-lane roads, and especially from a safety perspective. I drive these roads every day while I'm working, and I get a little bit immune to it, but I know when we have visitors and customers come out and we're taking them to the fields and they're riding as passengers, that they're kind of white knuckling it as we're passing the sugarcane trucks out there. It's very, very bumpy and very scary at times. So anyhow, that's just my 2 cents. Wanted to put in for some.
We
for some
appreciate your comments. Can you specifically, which road are you addressing?
There's probably about 30 miles of road specifically that we're needing to address. One is Browns Farm Road. It's a major transit road going in and out to the different farms. It's a very popular agricultural road. There's another road called Airport Road that again goes to the fields into downtown Belglade. And then lastly, we have a Hooker Highway that north of 80 going out towards the Osceola Sugar Mill is also in pretty rough shape.
I'm going to follow up with staff on this, but I would also suggest you may want to reach out to Mayor Steve Wilson. He's on the TPA, the Palm Beach County or Palm Beach TPA, and they, including a bunch of us, are on that board, and we prioritize the funding for, road maintenance and that kind of thing. We'll also reach out to our county engineer and Mr. Rudder to see what can be done to address these particular roads and where they fit into the maintenance going forward. When you say dispose, I'm hoping that you're not just trashing these items, that you might be giving them to the food bank or something like that, even if they're not saleable.
Well, there's different degrees. So things that are not saleable but still usable, we do donate. But unfortunately, some things get crushed to the point that you can't even use them. So that's the produce that does get disposed of.
Okay. Commissioner McKinley, did you want to follow up?
We've got 3 speakers on the same topic. I'll save my comments for the end.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. Thank you very much for coming.
All right, next we'll have Mr. Hunley and then Mr. Goodlett.
Well, Mr. Hunley is coming to the podium. I'd like you to recognize he was the Agriculture Farmer of the Year by the Florida Farm Bureau. So congratulations, Mr. Hunley.
Thank you, Melissa. I'd like to thank all of you for letting us speak today. I'll try not to repeat what Kevin said. I'm representing Hunley Farms, also Sugarcane Growers Co-op, which I'm a former chairman there for 7 years. And, there's one other road that Kevin didn't mention, and that's the old State Road 880. It's not State Road anymore, I guess. It's 880. That's part of the problem. The state doesn't help take care of it. But another section of it was actually overlaid in a number of, not too many years ago, but there's a section of it that literally will launch you if you drive over the humps at 40 mile an hour. And all of those roads, 4 roads, there are areas that are just vehicular unsafe. I mean, why people haven't lost control of their vehicles. Now, I guess because most everybody driving it knows the problem and they know to slow down, but you get a stranger come across there, they could seriously get injured. So it is an issue, and I know you guys have been a great help in the past. We would like anything you can do to help us. It's a pretty good job. 30 miles of it, not all in one road, but just the bad areas in those roads. So we would appreciate anything you can do, and we appreciate letting us come talk to you today.
Thank you very much for coming to here today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. David Goodlett, Sugarcane Growers Cooperative. About 35 years ago, we were in a similar position when I worked for Commissioner Bill Bailey, and he invited Channel 5 to come out and film from the back seat of his Lincoln Continental while he drove over those roads, and it made for some good footage. Unfortunately, roads in the glades were initially built on the muck dikes that will spoil material from the canals, and it's virtually financially impossible to take those roads down to rock and bring them back to the grade that today they would have to be built. So as soon as Commissioner McKinley was elected, we visited with her about this same issue. And although I loved Bill Bailey and every commissioner since, no one has been more attentive to the problems in the Glades surface transportation than Commissioner McKinley. And she has gotten additional overlay dollars for the Glades. The problem is these roads, the farm-to-market roads, are in deplorable condition. And when the state abandoned Old State Road 80, Old State Road 80, changing it to 880, it then just added 20 more miles of heartache to what you folks have tried to keep in passable condition. Frankly, what caused us to be here today is not the deplorable conditions that some of the loads reach the market in, but Paul Orsonego, who is on our executive committee and could not be here today, he's unfortunately had some illnesses, but he was following a car and a lady went around in a small compact type car, not from the Glades, and was driving on Old 880. He watched the car flip and a young child die. So not only do we have the problems economically to the industry, but we have the issue of public safety. Frankly, for my entire life, when I'm driving old 880, it's not unusual at all to get out of one lane and drive in the other because it's the only way to safely pass over the roads. So we're here to ask three things. Number one, that you examine your budget as you end the budget year to determine if there may be any money in the budget that has not been encumbered and apply it to additional overlay before this fiscal year is out. The second question is to please remember us as you enter into these budget discussions for the coming year and add as much to that line as possible. We know there's a lot of pull on your budget, but we would appreciate your consideration. And the last thing is, and I see I have 6 seconds, we would like to do a lunch in the Glades, invite all of the commissioners to come out and join us for lunch and then take a ride on some of these roads so you can see firsthand. We'd appreciate your indulgence. We appreciate your time today and thank you for your leadership.
How about the ride before lunch, so we shouldn't,
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, we've designed it the other way.
I had a feeling about
Bring a
that.
towel.
Commissioner McKinley.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Goodlett, thanks for being here today. I will tell you that last week I drove along, Friday. Friday I drove along Hatton Highway, and that is a state road, and that is a road that they did rebuild. I believe they did take that down to the rock and rebuild it up, and it's almost as bad as 880 is right now. I drive a Volkswagen, and even going the speed limit, I caught air on Friday and was grateful to land on all four wheels. They're in horrible condition. There is no other way to drive on 880 other than going into the opposite lane. And you stay in that lane until you see somebody coming straight at you, and it's not a game of chicken. You move back over, but it's not safe. There are canal banks on both sides. We have done a lot of restoration work on those canal banks, but it's still a body of water alongside these roads. I have complained for years that we keep putting Band-Aids on it, and I know that we keep putting Band-Aids on it because the cost estimates to rebuild, I think 880 is somewhere in the neighborhood of $70 million, and that's before inflation and construction costs hit us most recently. This is the second leading industry in Palm Beach County. We follow after tourism. It's a more than $1 billion economic impact. We are feeding our community and we are feeding the nation, and in some cases we are feeding countries overseas. Our farmers aren't able to sell their product if it's damaged. They're taking hits at a time where every other cost in agriculture is rising astronomically, from fertilizer to labor to everything else, that it makes it more difficult for them to do their job. And when they lose product simply because it bounced around too much in the back of a truck, when you've got a cane grower who is filling one of those cane trucks and the base cracks, that's a six-figure repair for that operator to fix that truck. It's significant. And I would ask that we look through our budget to see where we can expend extra dollars and where we might be able to budget more. We do have a special allocation just for Glades Road resurfacing, but we need to put more money in there. In addition to that, I would ask that our lobby teams, both in Tallahassee and in Washington, really make this a priority. I know I have worked with Omar Franco, who's our lobbyist from Becker out of Washington, on trying to get farm-to-market road language incorporated anywhere we can in federal legislation. We've gotten pretty creative given the inability to get most things done in Washington. Our bill sponsor unfortunately passed away, and as that bill was moving, I have since submitted language in the appropriations process to allow for local roads, that we've created a definition for farm to market, that local roads would be eligible for some of these federal dollars. And I would ask that we put our lobby team on it, trying to make that happen. Because that would open up an additional revenue stream for us. And then lastly, I would say that, we have significant capacity in this county to apply for grants. And I sometimes think we underutilize that capacity. And I'd like to see that this particular area, with all of the infrastructure funding that's available at the state and the federal level, that we put a grant writing team together solely focused on seeking transportation dollars. And Mayor Weinroth, I mean, not just for the Glades, but transportation projects across the county. Of course, my priority is the Glades. And I would like to give staff direction to put that tour together for our commissioners. Thank you.
I agree with you, Commissioner McKinley, and certainly when Speaker Pelosi was here at our bridge where we were talking about the need for infrastructure dollars, they certainly were doing a victory lap over the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and I think we need to be reaching out to Congresswoman Frankel and Congressman Deutsch to make sure that they're getting us in line for this money. Obviously, farm to market is essential, but there are other critical projects within our county.
Yeah, and then I would also like to ask Ms. Baker if you could ask our county engineer. You know, they recently redid State Road 80, and it just dawned on me the other day when I was driving on that. It doesn't look like they replaced the guardrails along portions of State Road 80, and just like to ask that they double check on that.
Our
Thank you,
county
Mr.
administrator is feverishly writing over there, so I'm sure that this will be something, and Mr. Rutter is writing, and I'm sure our county engineer is watching from wherever he's sitting.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and we do want to acknowledge the leadership that your county administrator provides on anything we call her on. So thank you very much, Ms. Baker.
And we appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
All right, we'll have Linda Smith, followed by Mr. Drew Martin.
Ms. Smith, it's always great to see you.
Hello. I feel like I was just here. Okay, Linda Smith, Jupiter, Florida. And today I'm not going to talk about preserving the Ag Reserve. I know, it's shocking. I want to talk about two excellent workshops that your Office of Resiliency put together on April 26th. Unfortunately, a number of the commissioners, some of whom I consider advocates for the environment and human quality of life, could not voice their opinion or weigh in on what I consider fairly disappointing outcomes. The first workshop on greenhouse gas emissions was to work out a feasibility study to reach zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Sounds good, but I can save you a lot of time and money on the study. It will be very hard. It will be very, very hard. It will be uncomfortable. You will have to remove your suit jackets, roll up your sleeves, and raise your office's thermostats. There were no real suggestions of action, no resolutions to install EV charging stations at county buildings, no ordinances to create no idle zones at delivery areas, not even a deadline for this study that I could hear on the recording. The awful solar net metering bill was vetoed recently in Tallahassee, so there's no excuse not to buy solar panels manufactured in Palm Beach County, installed by local tradesmen on all government buildings. California reached 100% renewable power for 15 minutes. Made the news today, and California has been working on this for years, and they achieved it for 15 minutes. I guess we'll have to wait for the study. Then there was the single-use plastic workshop. So I understand you're afraid to upset he who shall not be named before he signs Senate Bill 280. So we don't want to upset him. I did like comments like we should lead by way of example and we should start with ourselves. Unfortunately, they got a little drowned out by I like plastic straws and I like my plastic water bottles, and I don't think it has much effect. True, one plastic straw nature and humanity can deal with, but the U.S. uses 500 million plastic straws every day. One cabin in the woods using an outhouse is not a problem. Let's try that in downtown West Palm Beach. You asked for low-hanging fruit during the reduction in greenhouse gas emission program, but straws are about as low as it goes for single-use plastic reduction. There were comments that we do not want or want to create laws reducing single-use plastic because it would be too onerous to everyone. particularly businesses. So let's not have speed limits for delivery vehicles when they're delivering our meals in styrofoam containers with plastic utensils and straws. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Drew Martin, I'm here on behalf of the Loxahatchee Group of the Sierra Club. First, I want to acknowledge the people in the front row that are going to speak on not pursuing the land swap and preserving the area where they have their horse farm. And I think that's a very important issue. The Sierra Club endorses what they have to say and supports them. I'm going to follow up on Linda's comments, who she did an excellent job. And I'm trying, how am I going to reach? Because I think most of the commission kind of gets it, but there's a couple of people, we don't want to name them, but they don't seem to quite, grasp. There's a little urgency here, okay? We don't really have time for a lot of education. Well, I was walking in today, one of my good friends, I think he stepped away, I don't see him right now, but he was holding a styrofoam container with a plastic straw in it. And I said, wow, why did you get that? He said, because that's all they offer. He goes, I'd rather not get that, but that's all they offer. So, of course, he doesn't want to show up dehydrated, so he gets it. Oh, God. You're not drinking out of a plastic water bottle.
I have no straw.
Okay, well, that's a start. I have a straw, by the way, you can have. It's bamboo. So I was trying to think, what could I say? And I said, well, what do people know? Most of us know the Old Testament. So I was thinking, we go back to the Old Testament, and we had people back then, they were called prophets, right? And the prophets would say, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to have problems of epic biblical proportions. Now, we're certainly not Old Testament prophets. I don't have the beard and all that. But what we're saying to you may, in some ways, have some, parallels. Because we're coming to you and saying, if you can't give up plastic straws, and as Linda said, 500 million a day, if you can't give up, your styrofoam cups, if you don't want to ask your vendors to make a change, which, by the way, would save them money, because if every time they throw a straw on the table, half the time it doesn't get used, somebody throws it away. So you're actually saving them money. You're not costing them money. You're saving time because they're not throwing down the table. But if you ignore the prophets, you may end up like the Pharaoh. And, and you may end up, suffering, and not just you, but the entire county, because someday we may get that storm of epic proportions. And if you don't have your farms out there to absorb the flood water, and you continue to generate the carbon dioxide and methane that comes from burning your plastic, you're making the problems worse. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. The next speaker, I apologize, I can't read the first name, but is it Yermez? And then following Ms. Yermez, we'll have Lorna Wallach.
It's Jean.
Jean, thank you.
Sorry about that. I'll
No
print
problem.
it next time. Okay, good afternoon. I would like to thank every board member for giving me a few minutes to speak. I believe rezoning the Hyder parcel should be denied. First, I agree, and I applaud past zoning and planning boards for creating a viable, comprehensive master plan for Western Delray and Boca. Consideration was given to ensure protection of open space and farmlands, low-density development. Farmers grow their crops, horseback riders ride their horses, and provisions were made for rational and reasonable low-density development. If I were a landowner, I would argue Lyons Road has been developed. What about me? I would argue, if you permit me for the zoning change, the county will prosper on more property tax, and the county needs more housing, office space, and commercial development. I believe those arguments are disingenuous. With all due respect, it's all about the money. If rezoning is allowed, those property values will soar into the millions, mega millions. I have no problem making money or having them make money on their property, it's called capitalism, but make money with the existing zoning. Landowners can still make millions. We don't have to rezone that. I believe the burden should be placed on the landowners to prove without the zoning change their land has little or no value. Absent that proof, I see no unnecessary hardship on landowners. For those who argue more office commercial development is needed, I say, look at all the vacancies in the existing shopping centers and strip malls. In addition, the digital age, which is e-commerce, has created less need for brick and mortar. Amazon is evidence to that. Zoom meetings create less office space needed. I know you as the planning and zoning boards are aware of those changes. Inconvenience, changing surroundings, or not being able to sell to a developer at its highest price just doesn't meet the burden to grant zoning change. I have lived in Palm Beach County for over 30 years. I started a charity to support horses. I currently work in the Palm Beach County school system in the EBD units. I give guidance to special needs children. I always bring them and their parents out to the barns. The green space, the pastures, the horses provide every person that joins me a Zen-like experience. They always are astounded that the place exists. Serenity, peacefulness, nature are all important. Open spaces do not mean green spaces that developers provide in exchange for subdivision encroachment. We need to be more like Martin County, not Dade or Broward. Thank you for your time. Please come visit me at the barn.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming to see us.
Okay, hi.
Please identify yourself and pull
Yep.
the microphone down.
Sure,
There you go.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Lorna Wallach, and I live in the Ag Reserve, and I live actually in Valencia Sound. So, I am submitting a copy of the 2,093 signatures supporting the petition to protect Sunshine Meadows at the Ag Reserve. Please note that many of the out-of-state and out-of-country signatures are people who bring their horses to Sunshine Meadows for the season and contribute to our local economy. I'd also like to point out that Steve Wolf's signature is also on the petition. He is the owner of Sunshine Meadows. I have 2 letters I was asked to submit as the ladies were unable to attend today to speak. I have the Hyder West overlay map describing the area GL wishes to develop with me that I will hand in too. Please note their plan tightly surrounds Sunshine Meadows and includes the entrance into the equestrian village and the trails that are ridden on. As you're aware, I have attended every monthly Matters by the People meeting here. Last month, we were promised by Commissioner Sachs and Weinroth that this would be a fair process and most importantly, would be organizing workshops where detailed presentations and discussions would occur beyond the quick 3 minutes granted to the public in this forum. I inquired via email to Commissioner Sachs and received a response that I would be contacted. We are now May 3rd and I have not heard back. Time is ticking, 90 days away when you, the commissioners, vote on whether to change the land use policy 1.51, which would open the doors for GL's request to amend Florida land use, allowing them to build. As I have stated in past meetings and my petition, GL's plan does not support compatibility to the Loxahatchee Wildlife Preserve or an equestrian village. This is a faulty claim. In the Palm Beach article of 422 titled Why Horse Lovers Say Nay to Development near Boca, Kevin Rattery of the GL claims Palm Meadows and Equus are successful examples for their cause, when in fact neither facility comes close to resembling the Hyder West parcel and Sunshine Meadows. Equus has been failing for several years and has been for sale 3+ years. Palm Meadows is a thoroughbred training facility where horses go from their stalls to the track and back. They are ridden by professional jockeys, not children and recreational riders. Neither property is next to a sensitive wildlife preserve such as Loxahatchee Wildlife Preserve. Mr. Rattery's claims are false. We want those workshops. We want to have more discussion, or this is not a fair process. But I trust that you, the commissioners, will make sure that this is. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll receive and file your items. Would you please give them to the clerk?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Our next two speakers will be Stephen Isaacson and, is there a Nikki? Or, oh, sorry, it's Nikki Brown, sorry.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. Okay. Commissioners, you are reviewing GL Homes' request to amend the comprehensive plan text and allow the reallocation of existing agricultural reserve PUD required preserve areas, both in acreage and in units, from the Hyder West overlay to the Western Communities residential overlay, and the approval of new GL PUDs within the Hyder West overlay to be satisfied with the Western Communities residential overlay. Simply put, a land swap. Okay. Current Florida Land Use Elements Policy 1.5.1 restricts the development and protected area west of State Road 7, and thus GL's request to amend Florida land use location on the west side of State Road 7, and thus allow them to build an additional 1,000 single-family homes. GL Homes provides analysis demonstrating that Palm Beach County will benefit by the action by stating that the development is compatible with the home communities to the south, to the north, and to the east of State Road 7 with other GL communities. What GL never addresses in its 122-page comprehensive plan text amendment is the property in the west center of the Hyder West overlay, known as Sunshine Meadows. This large 174-acre, 698-horse stall equestrian center would be bordered on the north, the south, and the east entrance to this established, decades-old equestrian property, affecting hundreds of Palm Beach County riders and the trainers and the employees of this amazing facility. The effects on the magnificent horses and the many trails and wildlife is not measurable. Ironically, GL in its analysis addresses the Florida Land Use Atlas requirement for compatibility. Specifically, they state, and I quote, "The proposed amendment to revise the proposed plan on development and change, the conceptual plan, does not cause the project to be incompatible with the surrounding uses and adjacent lands. It will not create or foster undesirable effects," unquote. I believe that the commissioners might find that the over 2,000 signed petitions received within just 60 days to say no to GL's amendment should be cause for reflection on GL's statement of no undesirable effects, unquote. We respectfully request the commissioners hold workshops allowing for additional input and to hear the voices of your constituents. Finally, as the Hyder West overlay shows, GL's proposed compatibility creates a horseshoe around Sunshine Meadows neck. The result, it's actually going to be strangling Sunshine Meadows. I thank you for your
very
time.
much. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Following Mr. Brown, we'll have Samuel Cintron.
All right, my name is Nicky Brown. I'm here representing Palm Trend. First, foremost, I'd like to thank y'all up there for the wonderful work you've been doing with Palm Beach County. Also, I'd like to also thank the director, Mr. Clinton Forbes, for his wonderful, outstanding work that he's been doing. One thing I'd like to bring to you guys is that ever since they stopped the mask mandate, a lot of these passengers will not take the mask off. They won't. And they say that this is because they don't want to get this virus. And a lot of them learn from what's going on out there. So, it's optional. So they can't, it's your choice. And the same thing goes for the bus operators. They won't take the mask off either. So I guess it's just a thing now. And, with this pandemic out there, it's just changed everything. I'd also like to thank Mr. Forbes for the wonderful work he's done on the Paradise Pass. This Paradise Pass is a pass where you reload it. You reload this card and you put it on a bus every time you get on the bus. Now you can also get that to your smartphone. And I've noticed a lot of passengers, they're using the smartphone to get on the bus. And this has changed web transportation in Palm Beach County. Now, I've seen this down in Dade County. Now, this is a very good thing for Palm Beach, and I think a lot of passengers like this. And also, I'd like to touch on the holiday hours. We're picking up a lot more passengers, and but to keep that going, because a lot of people appreciate having the holiday hours up there so they can get to work. And next and last but not least, I would like to let you guys know that the palm trend is here to stay, and it's not going anywhere. And a lot of people have said to me that, you know, they've never had a transportation system like this ever before. I mean, when Mr. Forbes took over this palm trend, it changed everything for palm trend, and people love it. I want you guys to know all out there that Mr. Forbes is doing an excellent job. And I'll tell you, I've never seen nothing like this. I was talking to a passenger this morning. He said he has never seen palm trend run so efficiently. And all these people, these people in their hearts, they come up to me and they say, you know, I'd like to thank you and Palm Trend for all that you do. And I say, we don't thank just you. You got to thank the commissioners, and most likely, don't forget, the county administrator, Mrs. Baker.
Thank you,
You're doing
Mr.
a great
Brown.
job.
We certainly appreciate your comments. I know Mr. Forbes, who's sitting behind you, is very happy to hear of your satisfaction with Palm Trend.
And thank you very much. And thank you very much for the new shelter we have by Wawa, too. Thank you.
All right, following Mr. Cintron, we'll have Michael Reimer.
Good morning. I appear again to speak on behalf of the preservation of the ag reserve areas. Circumstances have not improved much. It feels like most of our efforts have been in vain, with no discernible efforts to address the climate crisis and protect our environment, in spite of the warnings from the IPCC. A sclerotic stance is taken to support initiatives that benefits developers and money interests instead of protecting the environment. The Ag Reserve was created by the voters approving a $100 million bond issue in '99 to purchase and preserve agricultural land in the Ag Reserve. You have breached the letter or the spirit of the agreement originally made to the voters by granting exceptions and alterations to specific regulations without consideration of the environmental consequences beyond those anticipated by creation of the tier. As our legal counsel has pointed out, this is a fundamental departure from the long-standing principles set out in the comprehensive plan for the preservation of the Ag Reserve. The law is clear that a comprehensive plan is to act as a constitution for all future development, and is to be enforced by citizens and not the state. It seems that all our supplications are just simply ignored. In addition, Sierra Club has fought for nature-based restoration of the Everglades versus dependency on industrialized-sized plumbing and artificial solutions that require forever expensive human maintenance and re-engineering every few years in an unending cycle of fixing mistakes. The EAA, for example, is a reservoir, was ill-conceived. It is deeper than the Lake Okeechobee and filled with nutrient-polluted water, which will promote the same or more profound conditions that fuel algal blooms. Also, the Florida 2020 legislature, Florida legislature season was a disaster. For example, we had the net metering, House Bill 741, which reduces what utilities pay to the homeowners and small businesses for electricity they send to the grid by 80%. This will decimate the solar industry and shutter hundreds of small businesses. The Senate Bill 2508, Environmental Resources. This bill shifts the focus of Florida's land acquisition from conservation to agriculture and lowers standards for the Rural and Family Protection Program. It deprioritizes the protection of certain lands. And we have these decrees favor many money interests in favor of citizens. Citizens need to get involved and even get involved in the political process. The climate crisis may resemble in some ways the dire circumstances Tom Paine confronted during the founding of this country when he proclaimed, "These are the times that try men's souls." It is up to us to decide what actions to take. We must remember there is no planet B. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner McKinley?
Yeah, I just want to confirm, I just heard this correctly. You want to flood nearly 500,000 acres of active agricultural production area and protect 600 acres in the ag reserve. I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly.
I didn't say that. I didn't mention any.
The Everglades agricultural area.
Yes, well.
Okay, that's 500,000 acres in active agricultural production, and you want to eliminate that.
I think it should be following all the way as it was before when you know.
Okay, that would mean eliminating 500,000 acres of active agricultural production that
Set up
grows for
canals
food.
where, going through the south, where it can, how, you know, how is it, you know, they have these, I can come up next meeting, and give you an answer to that. But they have the flow through natural process where it's source flooding. I mean, I only have 3 minutes. I can go with.
Well, I know, I just want to point out the frustration that you want to protect, 500 to 1,000 acres here, but eliminate 500,000 acres elsewhere. I don't have any more questions. Thank you for being here today.
I'll have an answer for you next time, more with specifics, I only have
Thank
3
you very
minutes.
much. I think Commissioner McKinley is pointing out that there's no easy answer to any of these issues.
In positive news, Governor DeSantis did veto the net metering
That's
bill,
right.
so
yeah,
that's
the
good.
net metering was vetoed. So the FPL is not going to be able to charge for that electricity that you're creating.
I just have something for the Pelican Sierra Club newsletter, just pointed that out.
Okay.
It was vetoed yesterday, okay.
Yeah, it was
Thank you.
just vetoed. So following Mr. Reimer, we'll have our final speaker, which is Arlene Burney, I believe is the name.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Reamer. I'm here on behalf of the Florida Structural Engineers Association and the current president of the Palm Beaches chapter of the Florida Structural Engineers Association. Currently, Miami-Dade County and Broward County have 40-year recertification programs for buildings that meet a certain criteria. Those buildings are required to be inspected after a certain period of time post-occupancy, and for structural and electrical deficiencies. Any of those deficiencies are required to be written in a report, and the owners of the buildings are required to remediate those deficiencies in a reasonable amount of time. Currently, Palm Beach County has a local amendment to the 7th edition Florida Building Code, which is Section 116 of the Florida Building Code for unsafe building requirements. This is only a local amendment in Palm Beach County and is a section that was originally in the 2019 International Building Code, which was re-added for Palm Beach County. This section of the code puts the onus and burden on building officials to determine what is considered an unsafe structure. There's no mandatory time frame or milestone inspections listed in this section of the building code, and there's no guidance on what level of deterioration would be considered unsafe. The section also requires the owners to remediate the issues that are outlined in a certified letter that in a matter of 30 days, but this does not mean total repair. The code section states that significant improvements must be made, and this could mean only a temporary fix or some sort of shoring of some sort. As the representative for the Florida Structural Engineers Association, we would recommend that Palm Beach County consider some sort of a building safety program or building recertification program that would follow the recommendations that are outlined in the Surfside Working Group document. There was legislation that recently failed in the state legislature, outlined in Senate Bill 1702, that outlined some of these mandatory or milestone inspections for these buildings and outlined criteria and that sort of stuff as to what would be considered for these inspections. And so it also laid the groundwork, let's see. It also outlined reserve funds that would be required to make some of these repairs in that Senate bill as well. So we would just recommend that Palm Beach County probably follow suit with the Miami-Dade and Broward counties and implement some sort of a recertification program for the county.
Thank you for your comments. This morning during our meeting, we did have some discussion on that. We're working with the Florida League of Cities, with, of course, the municipalities, trying to come up with what would make sense for Palm Beach County. We're also waiting on the special session that's been called ostensibly for insurance, but hopefully that they'll readdress the structural integrity and inspections. I think, as you'll recall, the stumbling block in Tallahassee was the financial and the consideration of how do we pay for the structural defects that are going to be identified. And I think that is really a critical issue that we are trying to study and figure out how to deal with it. So we haven't stopped on our part. We have a study group working on it. We're working with our state legislators. Hopefully, as I said, they'll address it during this special session, and continuing our efforts as far as code enforcement to ensure that situations that need remediation are addressed. And if there's a health and safety issue, we have no problem telling people to get out of the building. Thank you very much.
And if you guys do need any assistance or anything, Structural Engineers Association is here to help as well. So
I thank you, and I'd ask you to leave your card behind with the clerk, and we will certainly take that as some information we can follow up on.
Absolutely, will do.
Thank you very much.
And our final public speaker is Arlene Burney, and then we have
Berry.
one non-speaking.
Berry
card.
as in blueberries.
Sorry.
No problem. Well,
Very
thank you for
sorry.
letting me speak and letting other residents speak today. It's important that our conversation continue, and especially about these conservation issues. There are so many residents who want to keep the ag reserve, the comprehensive plan that we voted in and voted a bond for, $150 million, that was spent yearly to maintain the reserve, the preserve. Conservation problems, they happen overnight. It's not like people recognize it immediately. Right now, we're having a problem with the manatees. They're endangered. And conservationists were surprised with that. Now they're in Indian River. They are noticing how weak and sick they are. The numbers are dwindling. They had to feed them tens of thousands of pounds of lettuce a day. They were surprised at how they ravaged the lettuce. So the seagrass disappeared, and that was due to runoff from septic systems, overdevelopment, sewage, fertilizer coming from golf courses, lawns, private homes. We need our wetlands. We need our preserves. This is very active, energetic area that is filled with microorganisms, mollusks, hundreds of plants and animals. We're losing our biodiversity. There's an extinction crisis. So it's almost something we can't fathom, that we could lose so many types of species like birds. A simple bird like the sparrow or the cardinal may be in danger of extinction. The birders were really surprised to note that when the Audubon Society did their bird count. So we have hundreds of birds in our wetlands and preserves. The neighboring agriculture is amenable to that. We had excellent planning. It's not simple to plan the way they plan. There's no easy answer, but they gave that 60-40, they gave the deed restrictions. 60-40 east of 441, 80-20 west. So I think it's important, and we residents want to continue to push for the ag reserve to be preserved. and to watch out, to continue the maintenance, the $1 to $5 million a year that they were spending removing invasive species and doing other kinds of work on the trails. So hundreds of species of plants and birds are there, and including the endangered four-petaled pawpaw and some other birds. So we have common birds that, like the state bird, the mockingbird, and we have more endangered species, like the Florida scrub jay.
Your time has expired. Can you tie it up?
Okay, all right, thank you for letting me go over. I'm just reminding you of the urgency, which I think you already realize, of maintaining this land, not just giving it away to a developer. We just don't have very much land left.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Okay, that's the last of our speaking cards. Is there anybody that is just a...
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Linda Edwards. Overdeveloping is not good anywhere. I say no to rezoning of the ag reserve.
Okay, Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. Just at our earlier meeting, we talked a little bit about Loggerhead Marine Life Center. And I just wanted to give you an update. There was a meeting today with our staff, Parks and Rec, and also and some consultants and some representatives of Loggerhead, and they are moving forward with an RFP to get the work accomplished that needs to be done. So, and we have, I'm not sure if it's for public knowledge, so I won't say who, but there are representatives who are very engaged in this who will be helping lead the fight. So I just want the folks out there that are looking forward to returning to Loggerhead to see the turtles, that there is a future for that, and hopefully it'll be sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Marino, and I'm sure there will be a continuing story as far as the efforts being made to rectify the problems up there. Okay, we are pretty much done. I see no more lights. We'll be back here tomorrow, same place, 9:30, for the comprehensive plan amendments. Be here.